This is Rugby Merlin and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to discuss who is best qualified to be the Lions captain for the upcoming tour to Australia. Now, 3 months or so ago, you would have said definitely Caelan Doris is the number one man. No one really is coming close to him. But with recent developments, particularly in the England side, with Maro Itoje being promoted to captain, he has a little bit of competition. So I'm going to go through the credentials of each player and see who Farrell might actually pick. Before we go through the individual players' kind of resume, let's have a look at the previous players who were captain. And it's a very small group, going on from Willie John McBride, who basically became a legend because of his captaincy during the South Africa and New Zealand tours back in the, I think it was end of the 60s, beginning of the 70s. Going back from now, you have Alan Wynne Jones, who was captain in South Africa, Warburton, who captained 2 tours, New Zealand and Australia. You had Paul O'Driscoll in 2009 in South Africa. Brian O'Driscoll in 2005, and he got injured in one of the games, and then it was taken over by Gareth Thomas. Then Martin Johnson, what an elite club that is. And going back further, you had Gavin Hastings, Finlay Calder, 2 Scottish legends of rugby, from the late 80s, early 90s. So, it's a very elite club. So all of those players are very accomplished in their own right. And they went on to captain the Lions tour, which kind of raised them to the next level. So this year, Andy Farrell, Ireland coach, is in charge of the Lions. Now, usually it I wouldn't say always, but there's a slight preference for the devil, in terms of like Andy Farrell knows Caelan Doris a lot, and he's going to know what he's capable of. But now and again, you do get coaches from the picking captains from outside the respective countries. I mean, obviously Martin Johnson being a good case in point, but in terms of their individual personality and their career accomplishments, let's have a look at what we can expect. Now, before the tournament, there was pretty much like Caelan Doris was an absolute shoe-in for the captaincy. Tuipulotu was regarded as a possible kind of captain, but he's recently become captain and he got injured anyway. So I think Daj and Finn Russell have taken over like joint captaincy duties. Finn Russell might wear the armband a couple of times. Who else have you got? You got Jack Morgan also coming back from injury, but Wales are absolutely in the doldrums now. Dewi Lake as well, so they might get the opportunity to captain the side, and then who are you left with? You basically left with Jamie George or Caelan Doris, and George is at the end of his career. So it was looking 100% Caelan Doris. But now with Itoje becoming captain, I mean, if England can have a good Six Nations, then he's well and truly in with the shout. And now let's get on to actually the qualifications of each player. Both players are natural born leaders, having captained the sides through the youth structure for both nations. Itoje had quite a lot of success, whereas Doris, picked up a couple of injuries and missed a couple of years or so with injuries. Itoje he's captained a lot of successful young English sides. So I was always surprised that he wasn't earmarked for captaincy, and I was pleasantly surprised when he got it from George. So that's what I think. It's throwing this situation kind of up in the air, because Doris has had his criticisms for his temperament in terms of how he speaks to referees and things like that. I think he's definitely been the form player over Itoje, but Itoje is coming into form now. So it's going to be interesting to see who Farrell goes for. You also have to remember that Itoje was player of the series against South Africa 4 years ago, and he also went to New Zealand and made a big impact. One of my favorite little clips from the behind the scenes series from the New Zealand tour was Itoje singing the Fields of Athenry. You know, that was great. So he's Lions through and through. This will be his third tour, whereas Doris hasn't been on a tour yet. I know he's a young man, but it's a big ask for him to step up, and he doesn't know what Lions rugby is all about. So I think basically, I'm going to boil it down to this. If England go on and have a successful Six Nations and they win the thing, or even better, they get a Grand Slam, then I think Farrell will go against the grain and pick Itoje as captain. I really do think that. If Ireland do well, now remember, Doris has only became captain after Sexton left, and that was last year's Six Nations. So he's had a year under his belt, and they still like kind of lean on Omani a little bit for leadership on the pitch. So you know, he's been Leinster captain for a while now as well, but it's a big step up. I think on form, Doris deserves to be captain, but I wouldn't be surprised if Itoje gets a captaincy. I mean, he's definite first choice, I think, in the second row. He has a lot of competition. Doris maybe not so much, so maybe that will play in Doris's favour, because I think Ben Earl has fallen off a little bit since last year, and I can't see a number 8 really threatening his position. So basically he's guaranteed maybe his starting spot in the test side. So that's going to be significant as well. You know, you don't want your captain to be like pushed out by another player. So that's really interesting. I'm going to be watching this intently over this Six Nations tournament, because I think it's one of the most fascinating questions, and it could have a big impact on the successful on how successful the tour to Australia is. So let me know who would you choose? I think it's a 2-horse race. So Itoje or Doris for captain of the Lions. I'm going to get into my preview of the actual Six Nations. I think it's pretty much a 3-horse race, but you know, we'll dedicate a video to that. But if you made it this far, thank you very much for listening, and I will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.